Okay, we are officially recording. So I will start today's presentation officially. Welcome to a website training on understanding and working with images, both for your website and just in general. There'll be some very general tools. I want everybody to know up front that a lot of this will be given with very general explanations. What you would think would be very simple is maybe not so straightforward. Your website may have a different experience than other websites. There are some variations in the way things are deployed across the system. So there is a general rule of thumb that we'll be going over today, but just know that your website may differ. I'm going to start today by reminding everybody about our current temporary location for resources, the website services website at leanwisconsin.org/website service. And I will put this into the chat so that you have this. This isn't going to be our permanent home for information, but right now it's the best place I've got for very quickly getting information up. As you scroll down this page, I am constantly adding to this training documentation as we go. Today, I finally got uploaded the creating a new post from my website document. Part of the reason I was getting stuck on this had to do with images, and I think we've gotten past that hurdle for the moment, because I can now reference the understanding and working with images document, which also went up today. And there will be one more document that I'm going to complete either today or by the end of the week that will reference this training today and do that. Also, we have our YouTube playlist, which has these Zoom recordings of any of our trainings and some very short clips and specific trainings recorded by Anne, and eventually I'll add to that. In addition, there is the Digital Bytes YouTube playlist, and this has a variety of topics that aren't necessarily specific to websites, although some of them are website specific. Just added was the I Love PDF online PDF management tool. We will be quickly and briefly referencing that yet today. So we will start with that, but I want you to have that in your back pocket. So I will set that aside for now. But again, welcome today. We are going to talk about images, images and websites, images and digital technology in general. And I'm going to actually start with a very basic 101 on what an image file is. And hopefully now you all see that I have a Windows File Explorer page up here on my screen, if I am hopefully still sharing the right thing. Are you seeing a Windows Explorer and my computer desktop? Yay, thank you, Christy. Okay, so image files and image types. If we go to the document, I put this all in writing. So if you go back to the website service webpage and download the documents on understanding images, this is all put out in words, in written words. So I'll just speak to it today, and then you'll be able to reference that. There are a variety of file types on your computer that may or may not reference images. And to be a reference or to be a specific image file type, they have different functions. So why do you might be like, I've heard of JPEG, I've heard of PNG, I've heard of bitmap, I've heard of GIF. Why are there all these different types of images? In brief, they each do something very slightly different. There's a whole list of other ones, raw and SVG, vectors. They are all very good at doing slightly different things. So for us, the most important thing to know is what type of file types we want to be using. This is the exact same image. It is just it's one of the blog posts for the More Passport program. It's the exact same image, but a couple of things that you're going to notice here is, first off, while they all basically have the same name, under type and size, this is where our differences come in. At the very bottom is our JPEG file, which was the first one I made. This is what we'll use on the websites 90% of the time. I'm going to skip over the PDFs for 2 seconds because PDFs are not images, but they're important for us. There is also a PNG file, which in most cases can be interchangeable with JPEG. You can use it on your website, mostly interchangeable. But the main difference, if you look here between the two, is the size. 45 kilobytes versus 98 kilobytes. In fact, if I sort this by size, let's go with our smallest ones. The GIF and the JPEG files are the smallest, followed by the PNG. GIF files are the animated files. You see Giphies and fun things in text messages. These have really good animation skills, and they're very lightweight, and they stick in various places. They're not the greatest for websites because they might lose, they might not look really good on screens. They don't have a lot of data to them. JPEG has this sort of good in between where it still looks good, even though it's a very small, lightweight image. The PNG is a great file, mostly interchangeable with JPEG, but again, you see it's a little bit larger, and it's better for things when you need a lot of detail. Like if you were going to take a picture of a map and put it on your website and have it as an image file, you can blow it up and see a lot of small detail. So it's better for that sort of purpose because it still saves space, but has detail, but it's not as lightweight as the JPEG. Our goal on our website is always to keep things as lightweight as possible so our websites load faster and cleaner. GIMP, we'll get to that in a minute. That is a proprietary file type for the GIMP photo editor. We'll talk about that. You're not going to be able to really use this on a website, so you would still need to convert this to one of these other three, and especially a JPEG. PDF, again, that's not actually a file, an image file. We'll talk about that in a second. But the BMP file, the bitmap file, is a great image file for very high quality, high-end computer digital art and other pieces. But look how big it is compared to these JPEG. If you loaded your entire website with bitmap files, I'm not even sure if WordPress works with it, your website would drag after a while with just too much information. So this is why we really push you to use JPEG files. But you say, I create PDF documents all the time, and I create PDF posters. How do I make my poster into a file that I can actually use as an image? And that's what we'll talk about in just about 2 seconds. A couple notes on PDF, though. In a second, we're going to get into, I'm going to look at Canva. You have a couple different options in downloading your PDF files. Notice if you download the file as a print, high quality print one, it is much larger than the regular PDF. Most of the time, PDF standard size is going to be good enough for you. And we'll come back to that, but you can take your PDF documents and turn them into image files. Okay. So now we're going to talk about how do we actually get our image files, or how do we work with our image files? There are several tools that we are all pretty familiar with, but we're going to go over them piece by piece. Canva is one that I believe most libraries have started using, and it is a very powerful, very good, and pretty easy to use intuitive tool. We'll come back to this in a second because as for a hint for sizing, the blog post that I have here is what I work off of for making a generic blog post size because I have it set up. You can set up a template for yourself. My next caveat is please notice I am still on a Canva, not on a Canva Pro account. So I am still only using the free tools that are available to us. Hopefully I can get that switched over for some other various reasons, but you can still do a lot with the free tools. So what I did is I created myself a template with the various different, or with the sizes that we're going to use on our websites. We'll come back to this in a second because Canva is a great tool for this, but I wanted to show some examples of how we would get those images converted. if you've created an image in Canva, when you click on the share button, it will drop down and there will be the download button here. I have to move my Zoom piece. And it's going under download, it's going to give you some options and it'll probably jump up with a suggested one. And in this case, it's suggesting a PNG because it sees it's an image and knows that PNG is a good high quality image format. Again, PNG is great, it's fine, but it's just a little bit more robust than a JPEG image. So the JPEG, again, even Canva gives you the hint that is going to be best for sharing. And so this would be the one that we would actually want to download. The PDF standard, and then the PDF best for printing. If you are downloading this as a PDF, I do highly recommend just sticking with the standard unless you're going with something that is like archival and we are sending this to a professional printer. Most of the time, your PDF standard is going to be just fine for everything you do. SVG is a format that the pro can use and we can download from Canva. This is for making logos. It has a transparent background. Most of the time you won't need to use this. If you need to get a logo image made, I can help you with getting that SVG done once I get a pro account. But this is where one way you can actually start converting your files. If you have a file and you need it converted into a JPEG or a PNG, you could create a new blog post, upload that file. My uploads. Give me a file. Thinking, as it thinks about what I've uploaded. You could upload a file and say, I'm going to want to create, I don't have very much on here. I'm just going to want to create something using this image. And then I could download it. It was originally a PDF. I made it into a JPEG and imported it into here, but then I could download it as a PNG. It is one tool, but it's for its own specific purpose, mostly for designing. Now let's jump over to I Love PDF. And the reason I want to bring you to I Love PDF today is this is a tool that's really good specifically for a lot of things with PDF, and PDF isn't an image file. But when you need to make your PDF into a JPEG, this is a great, fast, easy tool for that. ilovepdf.com. You select your PDF file. It's going to take me to downloads. Let me see if I can find a quick download one. Let's say I wanted to turn the WVLS printable directory into an image for some reason. Not sure why I would want it, but I just want to do that. And I'm going to click on page to JPEG, and it will download, and my PDF file will now be an image file. And I can use that to upload to my website. The next tool that I want to talk about, yes, this is free. This is, if you try to do too many at once, I think the limit for converting to JPEG is 3. You can convert 3 documents at a time, and then you have to go back and start again. So you can't just upload 20 PDFs and have it all convert. There's other limits in here. It will tell you, it'll just be like, hey, can only do 3. Sign up for Pro if you want to do more. The next tool that I want to talk about is, and these are all basically free or available, the Photos tool on your Windows computer. So if you have Windows 10, Windows 11, I believe on Windows 7, which you shouldn't be using anymore, so we need to get those computers upgraded. But Windows 7, I think it was called, it has a slightly different name, Microsoft with Photos maybe, or something. But this is on your computer if you're using a Windows computer. And this is a really good tool. It's going to look for any pictures you have on your computer in the pictures folder or downloads folder. And it's going to show it to you and you can add to it. Photos is really good for exactly what it says, photos. If you need to do a quick edit to a picture that you took of an event and you want to get it up onto your website, very quickly, but you need it to be in a different size, a different format. Photos is a really fast, great tool for that. This is a picture of Representative Callahan receiving his poster at the T.B. Scott Library. It's got some very quick and easy editing tool, you straighten it, crop it, and you can crop, if you click down here, right now it's a free form. We're going to talk about aspect ratios in a second, but if you know that you need it to be 16 by 9 because you want it to be used as a blog post and we need a 16 by 9 for that, you can click on that format ratio. You can either save it as a copy or you can save it over the original and you will have your new formatted image that will work on your website. Very fast, very easy without having to dump it into something else. And then it does also have like some enhancers and some other things that you can do as far as making pictures look good, add different things. You can play around with the brightness and contrast and whatnot. And we're going to not save those changes. So that's photos. Again, very good for photos, not going to be great for clip art and things. The next tool, and again, all of this is documented on the documentation on the website. You can download the paper copy. The next tool that I'm going to talk about is Paint, and I think it was also called Microsoft Paint or MS Paint in either earlier versions. And there's also Paint 3D, which has a few more features and functions available on Windows 10 and Windows 11. This is on your computer. It's free. It's there. Some quick things. This is a good one for opening. Let's say I know that I have my I have a PNG file here, or I have a bitmap file of an image, and I need to convert it to a JPEG. So I have my blog post bitmap. I go to open. I open the bitmap file. It automatically has it as the size it needs to be. If I needed to change the aspect ratio, there's some image properties, and you can set, this one's already set to 650 by 400 in pixels, and it's in color. But you can also change some of this to try to get it to the right. You can you can resize and skew it in here. You can crop, except what you need to do is actually select the piece that you want. So if I just wanted this piece of it, then I should be able to crop it. I thought I haven't played with this for a while, but you can, there is a crop function. Maybe this is it. I need the selector tool. That's why. Get the selector tool, and then the crop will come up and it'll give you your cropped image. But what I mainly am suggesting for this for today, without getting into many, is to then convert this. Remember, we started as a BMP, a bitmap image, and we needed it a JPEG. I can now take this and I can save it, file, save as, and then I can select my JPEG, and then it will bring it up. I already have it there. I would save it, and now I have my file that is ready to go onto my website. The next tool, if you really want to dive into the world of graphic creation for free, is the GIMP program. I haven't had need to use this because I haven't had to go this far into graphic design. And Canva does a lot of things, but GIMP is a powerful tool, and it's desktop, so it's not web-based. But GIMP stands for the GNU Image Manipulation Program. It is a free download off the internet. You just need to search for GIMP and download that onto, and I believe it's also compatible with Mac. And this, again, you can open another style, or another file. And this one, it's a little pickier about how it wants to find things. Define downloads here. And I'm going to go down to my images, maybe. Image types. And again, I can open that same BMP file, the bitmap file. It will open it up on here. I can do some editing or changing, but the most important thing here is I can GIMP wants to save it as its own file type, which does not work on the internet. I need to export as, and then I can export it and I can change it to, let's see, select file type. So this, the other very powerful thing about GIMP, if you can see my tiny little X down here, select the file type, you can export this to a gazillion different file types, including HTML and HEIC, all of which have their purposes, even like a Photoshop image. If you really want to dive in deep, this is your tool. Okay, one last really fast tool that I think is very handy. Give me my blank. Microsoft Word. A lot of us have it on our computers. I really think this is a handy dandy little tool that sometimes comes in very handy. I am going to insert a picture from my device. And in this case, I'm just going to pull up. Again, come on, give me my image types. I'm going to insert a GIF. There's my file. What's handy about Word is sometimes you need to dump something in and you only need a portion of it and you just need to get something done. Once you put a Word, or an image into Word and you click on it, you're going to see this picture format up in the toolbar up at the top of the screen. There are several tools here like cropping, and you can crop your image. Please note that when you crop your image, it's a little more awkward, grabbing the corners and stuff. It's a little less intuitive than some of the other ones. But you hit on crop, always should have been here, and hit crop, and now I have my image cropped here. You're working in Word, but when you right click on this, you can save as picture. And then I'm just going to drop this in downloads. And there's my picture one, and I can save it as any file type that I need, including that JPEG one. And so now I have another tool. You can do this in PowerPoint as well. Sometimes it's just really handy to open up Word, dump it in there, and modify it there rather than trying to find a picture editor at the last minute. I'm going to save that. Okay, so I am going to pause briefly. Any questions on image types and tools for working with images? Okay. So now we're going to talk about getting these images onto our website. This is where things can get both a little confusing, but I want to keep it as straightforward as I can. We've been told that we need a certain size for our websites, and there's a reason for this. It comes down to the aspect ratio. Canva, or sorry, Divi and WordPress itself, and most websites are designed to have boxes and places that are prepared to take an image. And it's kind of like a picture frame. And if your picture doesn't fit into that frame, it's either going to get cut off or there's going to be weird things happening around it. It's not always immediately apparent what size that picture frame is. For the most part, and I say this with a huge grain of salt, most of the WordPress and even Divi defaults are to an aspect ratio of 16:9. I have this aspect ratio calculator that's kind of handy if you ever need to go down it, but it kind of gives you the idea. 16:9 we're familiar with because it's the new like monitor HD video or movie size. Our standard old school monitors were in this 4:3, and classic film is the 3:2. So if you remember watching really old movies, they were almost square. 3:2 is an almost square. A 4:3 is a little more rectangular, and a 16:9 is very rectangular. It's the shape of our Zoom boxes that we're all looking at right now. So to visualize this, what the difference is, most of the time in Divi, we're going to be using a 16 by 9 or a 4 by 3 and occasionally a 3 by 2. So you can see how the 16 by 9 box is more rectangular, more stretched rectangular versus the 4 by 3 more square. Okay, that's fun. Just tell me what the size is I need for my document and let's move on, right? Right? Okay. I know this is what you came here today is just to like figure out your website. The reason I want you to know this is because I'm going to look at a couple of different websites real fast. Deer Park website, rather than having a 16 by 9 photo for their blog right here at the front, they've got basically a square. So that's a 1 by 1 ratio. That's a completely different size than the 16 by 9 that is going to appear when we click on the read more. And in theirs, it's set up so it actually does work, that you can use the square and it'll fit and it'll work. The Eleanor Ellis library has not really a 16 by 9, but here it's a 16 by 9. So you need to see like how things are fitting, if things are getting cut off or if they're getting stretched. Sometimes Divi figures this out and WordPress figures it out. Sometimes it's not. If I click on the read more in any of these, again, you see that it's an okay size. Some websites are very locked in to that 16 by 9 and it will cut it off. Others will let you play around with just about anything and it'll be fine. The WVLS website, here on this slider is a completely different style slider. You can have a square, scrolling, or you can have the 16 by 9 show up in the slider and it works out just fine. So there is some wiggle room in what your blog slider can, or your blog posts and your actual permanent links to your blog post can look like. Just know that you're going to have to get to know your website. And if you run into, hey, these things are getting cut off, I don't know what it's doing, send in a ticket and we'll look at your specific website to figure out what is going on. So that's why I give you this ratio discussion and the big caveat that your website is unique to your library and it may not have just a standard, here's the numbers you need, and you go from there. So when I'm creating a new blog post, for the most part, and I'm just going to delete this because we didn't really want it. For the most part, I feel like I can use this 16 by 9 ratio, which happens to be, if I go back here, the 650 by 400 pixels. I can use that pretty safely throughout most websites. It's the most generic and it usually won't get cut off. So what I do in Canva as my tool is I've created a blog post and then I come down and I can just click on add a new page and suddenly I've got a brand new page right here. And you can use, what's nice about Canva is you can use a bunch of different, you can use different images of different sizes and you can arrange them in here in a way that fills up that space. These are our new library transform posters from our representatives. You can use that to fill up the space and you still have the overall ratio piece there. So that's a trick in Canva that you can do to make your life easier once you know what your website requires, and do that. Just dump all of your things into Canva, download as a JPEG and upload it. Here is where you also need to pay attention to how your website works. Images and blog posts. When you come to many and not all website, the front page of the website, you may have this blog post slider. So what is a blog post? We talked about creating a post in our last session and there is a video. A blog post should be a piece of information that is timely, newsworthy, and informational that is going to appear on your web page, on the front page of your web page, general information, general audience, And a lot of it is time bound. It's only meant to last a little while. And it has a eye-catching picture and a little bit of text in a blurb. There are three pieces to when you create your blog post. You are going to be thinking about that blog post where it appears on the front page of your website, or whether it's going to appear on the front page of your website, whether it's going to appear as a static blog post or a slider blog post somewhere else on your website, and what the permalink for that blog post is going to look like. So using Deer Park as our example here, we have a blog post slider that has a 1x1 square image. And what it does is it has an image at the top and it has a word blurb down at the bottom that you set up inside creating a post. So if we need to go back and review creating a post to see how that all comes together. What's more important here is to know that this appears on our front page, but on many websites, and Deer Park is a good example, if I come to youth programs and click on this, I have another post slider that has the same information from that front, and it looks different. It is not the 1x1 ratio with the words beneath it. It has the side-by-side slider. So as you select your images for your blog posts, know that it may end up in a couple of different places with a couple of different proportions needed. The other place that this image appears is going to be when you click on the read more. This brings us to the website permalink, or the blog post permalink on your website. So your website has a web page, specifically it says Mother's Day Hanging Basket Fundraiser. And this is where your blog post information lives. A lot of the time, this featured image, which is where all of these come from, the featured image is going to require a 16:19 size. If you put in something too tall or too short, it's going to cut off the top or bottom, or it may show white space around it. That's where that 650 by 400, which is also a 16:19 ratio, is going to be the most important as a generic, just in case you want to be sure things are not going to be cut off. Yes, we can get in and tweak your website and try to find some of these settings, but it's not always the easiest to find all of the settings across your entire site. Another example is I'm going to come, oops, let's see, sorry, didn't mean to do that, reopen, close tab. The Eleanor Ellis Public Library has, again, the overlay. They have a blog slider with, I think it's a 3x4. It doesn't quite look like a 16:19. But notice how here there's the slider, then down below we have posts in more of a 16:19 size. And this is all auto-populated and auto-created. And again, if you come down to, and if you click on adult programs, we have these blog posts with the auto-filled images, and the image size here may or may not be the same as the image size on the front page. When you click on the read more, you see the featured image appearing here, and it is linked to, and the size of this goes back to all of the sizes on the other blogs. So when you start with a website, when you start planning your website post, you need to be thinking in advance about what your website needs for the image, and then try to find a standard size. Like I said, most of the time 650 by 400, and create all of your images in that size so that you're pretty sure that it's going to work everywhere on your website. The homework here is that you need to get to know your website, and you need to know where things are linking. And if you have questions about where is my information going on my website, send in a ticket, and we'll work through what your website looks like. One final piece. Let's look at our posts here, just as a reminder. So that closed for Memorial Day post was going on the home page. As a review, this is how you know where those images are ending up. If you look at categories and you see homepage, the closed for Memorial Day was on the homepage. The creative bug is on adults, events, and the homepage. Canopy is on adults, events, homepage. And then finally, the Stories with Miss Laura is events, homepage, and youth programs. This is all set when you click on your post and you scroll down to the categories. Then if you look down at the featured image, this is the featured image that is appearing on the blog posts sections for each event, homepage, and youth programs. So this featured image, whatever size and style it is going to be appearing in these 3 different blog places. And if you find that one of yours is way out of whack and it's always cutting things off, send in a ticket. We can maybe modify the way that blog is appearing and get you something that looks that is more compatible with the rest of your website. Okay. I am going to stop because that's the vast majority of what I have for today. And it was a lot of information on images and websites. Do you have any questions on any of this or any tips and tricks that you have found that have worked for you with manipulating images? Hi. Just checking in on all that. Here. The last thing I'll leave you with today then is one resource if you don't want to dive into this and understand Divi a little bit better. This ultimate guide to using images within Divi. We have, I found this is very thorough and it's fairly recent. It's last September. It talks about how aspect ratios are used in Divi, how you can manipulate your widgets, and then how it works in the different types of modules that we might use. Images, I talk mainly about blog posts here today, but we do use them for image modules and some other pieces. I want to look very quickly at how, scrolling down, sorry, not making you sick, I hope. The 16:9, how Divi thinks about laying out your web page. Divi wants to divide things into proportional pieces. And this is a nice tool for knowing how many pixels across a different column might be. So if you have one image across the entire column, it's going to be 1080 or 1080 pixels for that. If you have different proportions, it breaks down into half and then into thirds and then into quarters and then 2/3 and a quarter and 3/4 and a quarter. Sorry, 2/3 and a third. The other tip and trick on here that is a really useful is this image module piece. This will talk to you about how an image module works, what the different pieces are looking at, and then like if you're trying to make it actually look good, here's some of the tricks. You don't need to dive into here, but it's a handy tool if you want to understand how some of this works in the background. So here is the resource, and it will be referenced in the handout that I'll be putting on the Lean website today. Okay, so that's the information I have for you today. If you have questions, go ahead and throw them into chat or shout them out. Otherwise, the next training that we have will be on, oops, come on. Oh, sorry. Monday, June 5th. We'll talk about website administration 101. So if you know somebody who still is just learning to log in, we're going to repeat that session. And then the next one will be our regular website office hour. I'd like to have a speed questions session or speed tips. So if there's something that you think can be answered in less than 5 minutes about your website, bring it. If you have a tip that has really saved you time or you really just discovered, bring it that day and we'll do kind of a show and tell and quick sharing. So we will see you on Monday, June 5th for website 101 or on Tuesday, June 13th for speed questions. Thanks everybody for joining today, and I hope you learned something. With that, you have 15 minutes to spare. How do you like that? Go and have a great day, everybody. Stay cool.